Bit of introduction about myself. I'm James Stackhouse. I'm the head coach at Stacked Fitness. I help busy corporate professionals regain their toned, healthy body by simplifying the approach to health and well-being so that it fits within their hectic schedule and therefore they can instill long-term, realistic, healthy habits. So what I'm going to discuss today is I've created a simple, practical, and easy to follow course called The 7 Habits of Highly Healthy People, the essence of which is that the hardest part of starting a new fitness program is actually starting, and the second hardest part is continuing. So by paring it down, simplifying the whole thing to 7 basic daily tasks, you massively increase your chances of actually doing them and maintaining them for the long term. So I'll go through a few of the habits with you today, not all 7, just to get you started. You're welcome to access the full course for free. I'll put a link in the chat as well. I'll give you a brief overview of the origins of the course. Many of you probably are aware of Stephen Covey's book. He was the author of the classic business self-help book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And having been very familiar with this text from my corporate days, it inspired me to create the course when I actually realized there were some similarities in that really there are 7 core elements that create healthy people. So putting those together and creating a course around those. And one of the elements of that Covey goes through, if you're familiar with it, is his time management matrix. So this, you put all this, he states that you put all of your tasks within this, work and life, and there's four quadrants. Top left is important and urgent elements. So these are your crisis, your pressing problems, your deadline driven projects. You've then got top right, quadrant 2, non-urgent but important. These are sort of relationship building, planning, recognizing new opportunities. You've then got your bottom left, which is urgent but not important. These are your interruptions, your phone calls, meetings, things that are more important to other people than you, but they hassle you to do them. And then bottom right is not urgent, not important. These are your fluffing around, not doing much because you don't want to start your next work task, trivial stuff. Now, the reason I state this is because we probably spend a lot of our time, probably too much of our time, in the important, urgent stuff. And of course, we need to do this, but we get tied up with the not important, urgent stuff as well, the day-to-day stuff. In fact, we should be spending more of our time in the non-urgent, important stuff. We don't because it's not urgent and we've got urgent stuff to do. But I mention this because this is where fitness and health sits. It's important, but it's not urgent. If I don't go to the gym today, if I don't eat healthily today, doesn't matter, nothing's going to happen. It's only down the track that through lack of consistent effort, I get into trouble and it suddenly becomes urgent. So really what we need to do is start now, continue, and avoid any fads or crazy routines that we're not going to follow for the long term. So I've got a rule of 7, and my rule of 7 states that if you do one simple task each day for 7 days, see how easy it is to plan it and get it into your diary and schedule, then you'll actually do it all the next week, and then next week, and as long as you need to, and you'll actually get into the habit. Now, the beauty of these habits are a lot of them are actually passive, and is it easier to do something or nothing? Nothing, hence we don't go to the gym or we don't follow these regimes long term. So what we need to do is be following these, and people get confused when I say what's the best, when they ask me what's the easiest way to lose weight, and I say nothing. And after a puzzled stare, I explain that the most effective way to lose weight is to actually do something, i.e. exercise, because it's a more efficient way of burning fat and losing weight. But the most effective way is to do nothing, and these key passive activities, because they don't involve doing hard, strenuous exercise, they just involve changing a mindset and doing slightly different actions. So let's go ahead and start with habit 1. This is a nice passive one, and it's go to sleep. Have more sleep. And the magic number 7 is 7 hours of sleep per night. Okay, 10 would be beautiful, but realistically, how often does it happen? If you're already on 10, ignore me, not a problem. If you're not on 7 consistently, or you're only getting 6, 5, we want to aim for that. It requires you technically to do nothing. Just go to bed earlier, and when you go to bed earlier, to sleep, and sleep for a long time and deep sleep. Key thing that with 7 hours, you have sleep cycles. There are 4 stages to each cycle, including REM, which is our deep sleep, Your body needs to go through six full cycles throughout the night, which takes around 7 hours approximately. So if you're not doing that, you're effectively harming your health. Now, some of the key elements you're affecting, if you're not sleeping long enough, you're putting your body in a state of anabolism, which is where your body, or rather you're putting yourself in a position of catabolism, where you're eating away at your muscle, rather than a position of anabolism, where you're building muscle, you're recuperating, you're regenerating, and preserving your active tissue, your muscle, which is great for fat loss. Other key element is you're really stressing and harming your hormone regulation. So what we want is key regulation of quite a number of key hormones. If we're not sleeping properly, biggest one that goes up, cortisol. This is our stress hormone, or fight or flight hormone. Useful in certain instances for brief periods of time, but if we've got high levels throughout the day, your body shuts down everything else apart from your key functions, and we're storing fat. Two other key hormones that are really key to be regulating effectively, ghrelin and leptin. These are the hunger and satiety hormones, which tell you if you're full or if you're hungry. And again, lack of sleep puts these out of whack. You're always hungry, you don't know when to stop eating, you're all over the place, and you become resistant to these. Talking of resistance, insulin resistance is another element that you can come a cropper to if you're lacking your sleep. Not regulating your blood sugar level correctly means you're not going to be locking that sugar away, or those carbs away in your muscles. They're going to be spinning through the system, doing harm to your organs, keeping that sugar level high. Two really important ones, hormones to consider, and this is probably the top tip to get more sleep, your serotonin and your melatonin levels. So this means you've got to use light effectively. So the more natural light we get during the day, our serotonin levels rise. We're awake, we're alert, and we've got lots of energy throughout the day. Throughout the rest of the day, when the light falls and it gets darker, serotonin goes down, melatonin goes up, which makes us sleepy naturally when we go to sleep. The problem is, of course, these are out of whack. We're working from home a lot, we don't go outside, we're too busy, so it's dark, it's not natural light. In the evening, we never turn off and turn the lights down. We're always on our life support machines, doom scrolling, which means our melatonin levels are never going to be in optimal position. So they're a couple of the things. Check out my course for more tips and advice on how you can do that. On to habit 2. Again, this is actually a passive action, a passive habit. Nutrition. Improve your nutrition. We've got to eat, we've got to buy food, we've got to cook the food. So just choose different food. Easier said than done, because a lot of the time we overcomplicate our nutrition. And as a personal trainer, you'll probably expect me to run through how important it is to calculate your total energy expenditure, your specific macro counts, etc., etc. But this is too hard. It's not going to happen. So we need to simplify it. My rule of 7 is eat 7 fruit and vegetables per day. Simple, but how many are we actually eating currently? It may not be as many as that. Why do we like vegetables? They're a natural carb. Often macros are demonized. Carbs, don't eat carbs, they're really bad for you. They potentially are if you eat too many of them and the wrong types, which is where fruit and veg comes in. They're natural. They don't produce an inflammatory response like processed carbs, full of fiber, which fills you up, which causes a nice slow release of sugar into the system. Also, it means if you're full, you're not going to be snacking, and snacking is a key element of putting on weight and being confused as to why we're not losing weight. 7 portions sounds a lot. If you break it down throughout the day, it's not actually that bad. 1 fruit, 1 veg in your smoothie in the morning, bit of spinach or avocado on your eggs. Boom, there's 3. 1 snack mid-morning, and then 2 portions for your lunch and 2 portions for your dinner. Really not too horrific when you break it down that way. If you don't do it every day, practice, and you can improve upon it. Another key tip about nutrition, rather than making it too complicated, pare it down and follow a simple acronym. Cut the crap. C-R-A-P. The acronym stands for C, carbs, and specifically non-complex carbs. So ditching your white products, your overly processed grains, your rices, your pastas, your breads. These are all less natural products, which your body doesn't recognize, as well as your complex carbs, your fruit and veg. R, refined sugars. anything in your list of ingredients with OSE on the end, fructose, glucose, all of these ones, lactose, these are all artificially pumped into your foods to make them taste delicious, to make them last longer, but that extra sugar is not something we need. CRA, A is the dreaded booze, alcohol. Alcohol is a macro, but unfortunately it's not one that uses any energy to be processed. Unlike your carbs, your protein, and your fats, they use a lot of energy to process and digest them. Alcohol doesn't use any, and unfortunately it sits around in your system until it's been eliminated by the body, which means the other processes are put on hold until that's done. So follow that. P is the last one, processed foods. So in your ingredients, if you've got a lot of ingredients on your food, it's probably processed, it's in a packet, it's in a can, it's in a tin. Things you can't pronounce in those ingredients, letters, numbers that you have no idea what they are, trying to limit those as well. Okay, next habit. Unfortunately, we're going to have to do some work now. It is active, it's exercise. This is a big one because people are often scared by exercise. They've tried it before, it's too horrific. They come up with they go, let's get this boot camp. I'll go at 5 o'clock every day, get smashed as I run up and down on the beach. First day, alarm clock goes on at 4 a.m. You put snooze on, you press the snooze, you don't do it. It's not going to happen. So it's got to be realistic. So my rule of 7 here is 7 minutes per day. Okay, I thought the government says we were supposed to do 150 hours of moderate to vigorous activity. Sure, but how many are we actually doing at the minute? If we're up to 150, not a problem, keep it up. If you're not, start slowly. You've got to run before you can, you've got to walk before you can run, yeah? So keep it simple, and we want to break it down into cardio and strength training. Cardio, very good for our cardiovascular system, our heart and veins, etc. Not too bad at burning fat if you go hard. Strength training, resistance training is the key, because what we're doing is we're building muscle. Muscle's an active tissue. I'm not talking about turning into Arnie, getting more active tissue, which burns twice as much energy as fat. So the more of that we have, the more we're burning fat, the more we're reducing that, even when we're asleep, even when we're sat here on this call. Cardio, 7 minutes, rule of thumb, yeah? Rule of 7. All you have to do is 40 seconds of work, of exercise, 20 seconds rest. Repeat that 7 times. Done. Easy, 7 minutes. Choose something you don't find too horrific. Running, cycling, rowing. It's only 7 minutes, yeah? We could have done it already in this session. Your strength training, again, keep it simple, 7 minutes, three movements. 1 leg exercise, squat, hinge, lunge. 2 upper body exercises, a push up or overhead press, and a pull, a row or a pull up. 10 reps each, 1 minute rest between sets, do 3. Done. Simple, easy. And again, once you get into the habit, key is the habit, it takes 66 days to form a habit. Once you form your habit, it becomes second nature, it's locked in your calendar. You're up to 7 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and we're forming that habit. Go through last one, it's kind of linked to exercise. Steps, getting our step count out. We're also told to do 10,000 steps. My rule of 7 says you only have to do 7,000. 10 would be good, 7's plenty, particularly if we're not even anywhere near that number currently. Beauty of doing steps is it forms part of something called NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Bit of a mouthful, but all it stands for really is it's the energy expended from everything we do that's not sleeping, eating, or sport-like activity. And it forms a large part of your total daily energy expenditure, even more than exercise, more than eating, of course, but it's really not that hard to do. It can be involved, going for a walk with the dog, playing with the kids, doing a bit of gardening. It all integrates into your day. If you really want to know how to do 7,000 steps because you're struggling, break it down. It's about 3 miles. Split it into 2 lots of 25 minutes, 3,500 steps each. Take the longer route to the coffee shop in the morning. Go for a nice walk at lunchtime. Get some more of that light to boost your serotonin. Walk the dog, play with the kids outside. Simple. Keep it calm. Keep it under control. And it can form up to 15% of your total daily energy expenditure. So it's worth doing, and it can make a big difference to your total overall health and well-being. Use your trackers, they're there to help you. Your Fitbits, your watches, they will help you through that. If you want to know the other habits, have a look at my course. It's free. I'll give you the link in the chat, including my number 1 habit, which is a nice passive habit. You'll be pleased to know. Thanks for your time today.